Hello, my fellow suffering beings, to quote Dan Harris, one of my favorite podcasters of the podcast 10% Happier. He's amazing. This is Shanaz. I started talking about my ayahuasca journey in a previous video, and I promised that I would continue the conversation with you all to tell you about some of the lessons and insights and wisdom that I gained while on the ayahuasca. Spoiler alert, if you haven't watched the video before where I talked about my experience on the ayahuasca, it was an amazing experience. I loved it. I feel like a new person. I feel amazing. I love myself. I love life. And I love everybody. And this is about a month after I did the ayahuasca, so I'm not high anymore. And I still feel amazing. So if you haven't watched that video, I pretty much talk about what my experience on the ayahuasca was like. And I kind of review or briefly review Rhythmia, which is the place where I went to in Costa Rica, where I did the ayahuasca. It was the best thing I could have done for myself at this point, and it was the best investment I could have made in myself, and I have absolutely no regrets. Not just no regrets, but I am so proud of myself for giving it a try. I'm so grateful to myself for giving it a try, even though I had no idea what ayahuasca was, and I had never done any psychedelics, and I'm so grateful that I did. So I want to talk about, like I said, some of the wisdom that I gained while on the ayahuasca. I feel very, to quote Joey from Friends, wisdomous as a result of the ayahuasca, and I'm happy to share some of that wisdom with you all. First things first, you should know that healing is a long process. So if you've been trying to heal for the last, several years or months, maybe days, maybe you just realized or it just occurred to you that you can heal, that you don't have to continue suffering. Please understand that it may take time and it is not necessarily going to be easy. A friend of mine claimed that doing the ayahuasca to heal felt like an easy way out. So a couple of things. First, my heart goes out to anybody who thinks that they don't deserve healing through quote unquote easy ways out. There's nothing easy about the ayahuasca. There was nothing easy about the ayahuasca for me. But two, if it is the easy way out, why do you not think you deserve it? Why do you think you have to suffer as you heal? What is wrong with healing through easy ways out? Anyway, but healing is a long journey, and you have to be kind. Well, I think that we should be kind to ourselves as we heal. We're going to make mistakes. One thing that I think psychology says that in order for something to become a habit, waking up at a certain time or sleeping at a certain time or doing meditation or yoga or breath work, etc., if you want some consistency in your life, one of the ways to make it a habit, you have to do it for, I think, 16 days in a row. It's okay to skip a day, but to skip more than 2 days will disrupt your journey and the consistency process, and it will be harder to get it back as a habit. So, but be gentle with yourself. You absolutely, you have no choice but to be gentle to yourself as you try to heal. I get that healed people heal people and hurt people hurt people. And so if you're hurt, you continue hurting yourself. And if you're healed or if you are healing, you'll heal yourself. I'm a huge fan of this statement that hurt people and healed people heal people. This is why I'm a huge advocate of everybody healing, using whatever sources you need to use to do your healing. And I wish healing upon every single being in all of the universes, because when one healed person can heal many other people, and when hurt people, we all know hurt people continue to cause harm. Gabor Mate says in a lot of his podcasts, I listen to a lot of podcasts on wellness and self-compassion and trauma and healing, and Gabor Mate is one of my favorite people to listen to. He has a lot of amazing books out there as well. But one of the things that he constantly reminds us is that the most hurt people are in prisons, because healed people don't go around hurting people. Healed people don't go around doing what we count in society as crimes, right? What we treat as crimes. And so criminals, quote unquote criminals, because I get how political the term criminal is. Criminals are very, very traumatized people. And they've been hurt, they've gone through traumas, they have not healed yet, and when they heal, society can heal as well. Everybody else can heal as well. So I'm going to be rooting for you if you're on a healing journey, and you're welcome to let me know about your journey, and I I will be sending you all my love and all my positive healing and healed vibes, and I want you to heal. One of the ceremonies, the shaman says to us that when we're triggered by something, it's a wound that has not been healed yet. So I learned that everything that was triggering me was reopening my wound that I haven't yet released or worked through. And that information, that insight was revelatory for me because I had never ever heard that kind of language being used around triggers. And I finally now have a new way to look at those triggers. So a few days ago, this is post ayahuasca, I was in a situation, in a space where the conversation was triggering for me. And I remember saying, like, sort of out loud to the parties that I was in conversation with, that, and I held myself as I said, this is deeply triggering for me. This conversation is very triggering for me. But I wasn't angry about it. I wasn't acting out. I wasn't shouting at anyone. I wasn't dismissing anybody. I just said, this is really triggering for me. And it clearly wasn't triggering for the people involved. And I realized I'm not a tree. I can just get up and move. I literally do not have to be in this space and listen to this conversation if I don't want to. And I didn't want to. So I gently walked out. And I remember just being by myself and doing a quick reflection and asking myself, what is this? This is a wound, right? So the thing that was triggering me means that there's a wound inside me. And I sat with myself and I tried to figure out what the wound was that had not healed yet. And I figured it out. Like I made a lot of connections, and I did a lot of thinking and connecting that particular conversation, the theme of that conversation, with my experiences that I've had. And I got in touch with myself. The adult me had some experiences that made that conversation triggering for me. And I was so proud of myself because I gently walked out. I didn't cause any disruption. I didn't cause any trouble. I just decided that wasn't the right conversation for me to be in. And I walked out and I felt really good. It felt really good, really mature to just make that decision and say, I don't have to be here if I don't want to be here for this. So using the language of wounds, I think definitely for me is a lot more effective, and it is a lot more familiar. Triggers are real, but just understand that triggers are also wounds. The word trauma literally means wounds, like a wound. I found out also, and this was really sad, I found out that I didn't think I deserved forgiveness. The Thursday night that I talked in detail about in my previous video was really special, right? They hype it up at Rhythmia. It's not just a regular ayahuasca ceremony. It is a yahe ceremony, and yahe is a more purgatory, more intense kind of ayahuasca. There's also a healing circle that happens that Thursday. And when they called for the women to come up for their circle, for their healing, I wasn't able to function. I seldom could function on the ayahuasca. I always needed help walking and standing and getting up, etc. And so I asked for help, and I go up to the healing circle. The seats didn't have a back support, so I couldn't sit up on them. And I kept just lying on the floor. And they kept telling me, sister, you have to be sitting up on the seat in order for you to get the healing. And I kept saying, I can't. And so I would ask some of the healers if I could just stay lying down. And then when the healer gets to me, please wake me up or let me know, and I would get up. But before I did that, one of my healers came to me and said, do you not want to heal? And I said, no, I don't want to heal. And I said it so firmly. And she took me to my mattress, and I went to my mattress, and then eventually I went to the bathroom, and I realized in the bathroom that I didn't believe I deserved a healing. And when I realized that, I wanted to cry for myself, because look at the messages that I've internalized, right? A lot of it is coming from spiritual abuse that I've experienced. But this idea that I don't deserve to heal, it's like, what have I done in this world to anybody or to myself to think that I don't deserve to heal, that I don't deserve to be forgiven? And when I realized it, I was really sad for myself. And I realized also that meant I hadn't forgiven myself yet. the most of the nights, one of my healers kept telling me, don't forget to forgive yourself as well. I would go to him. One of my nights, I had a really good night, like a difficult process that ended very positively. And I went to him and I said, can we go outside? Can you take me outside? And he takes me outside as we watch the stars and the moon and everything. And I said, I listed out the number of people, or the names of the people that I had just worked with on my journey with forgiveness in particular. People that I love, that I want to have better relationships with, that I wanted to forgive and that I felt forgiven by. And then when I went back to my mattress, he says to me, don't forget to add your own self to the list of people to forgive. And that felt like a revelation, like, what? Are you serious? And I said, oh my God, thank you so much for that reminder. You're right. I also deserve to be forgiven by me. I deserve to be forgiven by me. And then when I learned that night on Thursday that I hadn't yet forgiven myself, that's why I didn't think I deserved to heal. I kept telling myself, the reason I'm here is precisely so I can heal. Why do I not think I deserve to heal? So I went back up. I went back to my mattress, asked for help. But I also told myself, I'm going to have the energy and I'm going to sit up. I can do this. I deserve to heal, and I'm going to get up and get my healing, and I'm going to be fine. One healer came, did her healing, did the blessings, and then another one came and did his as well. And as I was being healed, I was singing my most favorite nasheed, which is an Islamic song that praises Muhammad and praises God. And I learned about it in Morocco this summer. And I was singing that as I was getting my healing. And it was, for me, as a religion person, as a scholar of religion, as a professor of religion, it just felt like a really beautiful thing to experience, because I'm combining multiple religious ideas in that moment and multiple sources of healing and blessings in that moment. And I was singing and I was going like this, and he's healing me. He's blessing me. And I felt so wonderful. And when he was finished, I said, can I go to my mattress now? And he said, yes, you may. And I went back to my mattress, and I felt the energy, like being the healing energy being transferred to me. The message here being, you deserve to heal. You deserve to be forgiven. You deserve to forgive yourself. It is a very long and painful process to forgive yourself, because we've internalized such terrible messages about self-hate and what we deserve, what we don't deserve. But you deserve all good things that you want. You deserve all kindness, all the kindness in the world. We all do. There's nothing that you have done that you don't deserve kindness for. The terrible things you have done, you did because you are an unhealed person. And when we're not healed, we make terrible decisions that have an impact. We're all hurting. You deserve to stop hurting, and you deserve to not hurt ever. So utilize whatever resources you can to work on your healing and to be forgiven, to forgive your own self. Another thing that I learned about on my journey there at Rhythmia on the ayahuasca was where I hold all of my pain, all of my trauma, all my suffering. This is something that I had been wanting to learn for not for a long time, because I didn't know it was a thing until a few months ago, until December, when my latest trauma happened to me, and then I started listening to all things on trauma, how to heal from trauma. And there's somebody that a friend of mine recommended to me, Richard Shores. I talked about him in my previous video. He has some really amazing material on healing, and he is founder of a therapy model called the internal family systems, where, as I discussed before, he believes that we have multiple parts within us, all of whom are created in response to a suffering that we undergo, a trauma that we experience, a pain that we receive. And those parts emerge, and they're acting out, and they're the ones making major decisions about how we might react to something, how we might deal with something. And it's not always our higher self that is capable, that is not traumatized, that is making the decisions, right? The more aware self is not the one that's making all these decisions. That aware self gets suppressed and overpowered by the traumatized parts within us, the parts within us that resulted out of trauma. He often appears on these podcasts that I listen to, and when the podcast host asks him, so like, how do you do IFS, internal family systems? How do you do this kind of therapy? And then he says, oh, let's do it on you. Let's do a model. Let me show you how I do it. And one of the first questions he asks the person, the client or the person that he's working with is, where do you feel this particular feeling, right? So let's say that you want to work through your guilt. You might be feeling a lot of guilt. You might be feeling a lot of shame. You might be feeling a lot of whatever it is that you're feeling, the part of you that you want to work on. Everybody he talks to seems to know exactly where they're holding it, right? So he's like, where do you feel it? Where do you hold it? They might say in my throat. They might say in my stomach. They might say in my shoulder. Whatever it is, they know it. And I never could. I never could figure out where I was holding this part of me. And now I do. Now I know where I carry all my pain. And that revelation was important for me because it also answered so many other questions that I have, including questions related to romantic relationships. When I say I learned things, I feel like I learned things about every area of my life, from my career, professional life, to my very personal life with my friends, to my romantic life, to my family life. It was everything. It was just like revelation after revelation after revelation. So I feel amazing knowing all of those things about myself now. Now that I know where I hold my pain, I feel like this connection that I'm building with my own self, with my body, with my physical self, with my spiritual self, with the different parts of myself. I know what part to hold, like to physically touch, to care for, to pay close attention to focus on healing and working with when I'm hurting emotionally. Because with emotional pain, it's really hard to tell where exactly we're holding our emotional pain because we can't really feel it physically, right? With physical pains, you know when your knee's hurting, you know it's your knee. When your face is hurting, you know it's your face. If your brain is hurting, you know it's your brain. But with your emotional pain, you don't know where it's being held. The most important thing that I feel like I got to understand was my own self. And that's what the ayahuasca, I believe, is designed to do, like naturally, because it gets into your subconscious, into your brain, and it helps you understand the hidden parts of you, the parts of you that you're denying and trying not to understand and not to love. Other things that happened. So Islam, I'm a Muslim. My relationship with Islam is even better than before. I had a pretty good relationship with Islam since I got the PhD. I literally had to get a whole PhD in it to love it the way that I do. You see, Islam is all about intentions, to the point where sometimes it gets annoying because, as we know now in our anti-racism work, for example, intentions are sometimes irrelevant because the impact is what matters, right? But with God, intentions matter a lot in Islam. There's a saying that every action is measured by its intention. In Islam, you set intentions before you pray, before you perform the ablution, your ritual washing before a prayer, when you start your fast, when you end your fast, when you go on a pilgrimage, when you exit the door, everything you do, you have intentions. And I remember being annoyed, not in the last few years, but at a time in my life when I was having a difficult relationship with religion and with God, I remember just being annoyed by this language of intentions and by this idea that you need to set an intention before you do something. Because I would ask, does God not know that I'm about to pray? And it turns out, I learned on the ayahuasca that it's not, I shouldn't say I learned on the ayahuasca, but here's how I did this learning about why intentions matter. Our coaches kept telling us to set intentions. Rhythmia has intentions that they give us to work with, right? I discussed the 3 intentions that they give us in my last video. So for example, the first intention is to show me who I have become. The second intention is merge me back with my soul at all costs. And the third intention is heal my heart. I also added my own intentions to them, like show me my full potential. Magic happened. Magic has been happening ever since I asked to be shown my full potential. I can't believe how much I've settled for. I cannot believe how much I'm capable of, and I now finally accept it. But you set an intention, and you're throwing an intention into the universe, and then it's heard. I believe in that. I've always believed that when we throw intentions out into the universe, it's being heard. Well, it turns out when Islam is so fixated on intentions, the idea isn't that these intentions are for God to know something, but for us, right? For me to be more intentional about what it is that I'm doing, to have a more intimate relationship with the thing that I'm doing, to be more mindful of what it is that I'm doing, of the impact of this thing that I'm doing. This is why intentions and impacts go hand in hand, right? Have I thought about the impact of this thing that I'm going to be doing? I feel like intentions, setting intentions or learning about intentions or learning about the importance of intentions has made me a lot more thoughtful about how I exist in this world. What kinds of results might my actions cause another human or me? And these intentions that we set, in Islam, they connect us also with God in a more intimate way through the thing that we're doing. In that moment, it's just you and God and the intention that you've set, the thing that you're doing, right? So I now try to set intentions for the day. You want to set intentions for the day, for the week, maybe for the year even. But having these intentions help you walk differently. They help you live different. They help me. I shouldn't say you. They're helping me walk differently. What's happening is it is setting the tone for that particular activity that I'm doing. Setting intentions is making me more aware of the legacy that I'm leaving behind and the impact that I'm having on other people, on living and non-living beings. I feel a lot more calmer. I don't feel rushed anymore. They also kept telling us to submit to the medicine, to just trust the medicine, to trust the process of the medicine, and to trust it to do its job right. Islam, my religion, literally means submission. The word Islam literally means submission, submission to God, submission to the will of God. But for the first time in my life, I understand and I love what the word submission means now, what the word Islam means now. While on the ayahuasca, I asked questions, and you can ask questions for clarity. You can ask to be shown something. So I discussed in the previous video some of the things that I asked to be shown. Like, wait, when I learned, for example, that I was rushing or that I was not living in the... Another week, I learned that I wasn't living in the present. And I was like, that's not true. You can't tell the ayahuasca something isn't true. The ayahuasca knows. And then when I finally accepted it, I was like, oof, you're right. I started asking, okay, how can I live in the present? And I got physical, like literal examples of how I can. When I say physical, I mean like I saw images of how I can live in the present. The point being, because I would eventually get my answers, the thing that happened was I submitted. I was like, okay, I accept what you have to show me. I accept what you're offering me. I accept what you are helping me understand about myself, and I appreciate it. I'm grateful for it. And I would get my answers. I'm still getting answers since I have left, especially things related to my full potential, because I didn't get the answer to my question of full potential right away. I'm learning what it means to submit to God, to let God do what needs to be done. The ayahuasca would do things when I would let go. There was one time when I told my healer that I didn't vomit, and I really, really wanted to vomit. I wanted to purge through vomiting that night, and I did not at all. And I told this healer this, and she was like, if you had just let the ayahuasca do what it was supposed to do, she probably would have let you purge through vomiting. And I believe that. I truly, genuinely believe that if I had not resisted, if I hadn't fought, if I hadn't insisted, but I want to vomit. And I know this because there were other days when I was like, I don't know which ways I need to purge tonight, because the things that were being processed some of those nights, I was like, I don't know what the best way to purge is, and the medicine knows. So I did purge a lot through vomiting the next day and through other ways. And then there were other days when I was like, I don't want to vomit today. I want to purge in a different way. But I remember still saying, but I don't know what is best for me right now. And when I would let go, things that I actually wanted would happen. And this is where I feel like the submission stuff is so beautiful now, because when I'm submitting to the universe, when I'm submitting to the cosmos, when I'm submitting to God, when I'm submitting to nature, when I'm submitting to the ayahuasca, the things that I want happen. And that is what I'm loving about this idea of submission. And just submitting to God, submitting to what is meant for me. Whatever is meant for me will happen, no matter how much I don't want it and whatever is not meant to happen for me is not going to happen no matter how desperately I want it. And I love this new change in me because a few days ago something happened that pre-ayahuasca me would have been really would have been sitting very, very much at pains with. And new me, post-ayahuasca me, just accepted it and said, okay, now is not the right time. Or maybe this will never happen for me and this is okay. I will probably and hopefully get something even better that is meant for me. I also now have a new relationship with my period. I won't share the details of how that happened or exactly how this relationship is changing because everybody doesn't need to know that. But it came up for me a lot of times, partly because, as I mentioned in the last video, I was on my period the first week that I was doing the ayahuasca, which is why they wouldn't let me participate in the Thursday ceremony, which is why I stayed in the second week. But I was shown things. I was literally shown things. Okay, this is what you need to change because what you're doing right now isn't nice. It's not kind. It wasn't wrong, but do this if you want that. And a part of that had to do with what I learned about nature and my relationship with nature as well. My relationship with nature has changed. Indigenous people have always told us that everything in the universe is connected. We're all connected. We're connected to the cosmos, to the stars, to the lakes, the land, to the mountains. For many, many different reasons, Indigenous people take something like land and mountains very seriously, and you're probably aware of some of the legal battles that they keep fighting because non-Indigenous people don't appreciate or understand. Non-Indigenous lawmakers don't appreciate and understand the relationship that humans are supposed to have or meant to have or can have, and that Indigenous people definitely have with nature. Because I was told at Rhythmia that we can communicate with the medicine, and because I did it, and because I got answers, I finally, for the first time in my life, understand what it means to be connected to the universe. What it means exactly that we're all connected, that we're all apart, that we're all one. And it's not just Indigenous people who have been telling us this. Buddhism famously has this concept of interbeing, that everything is connected as well. Hinduism has it. Jainism has it. Islam, in some way, Dr. Amina Wadud argues this in her latest book, Once in a Lifetime, which is on the 5 Pillars of Islam. And it's such a beautiful book. I did a YouTube video, I think, on it and an episode on it for my New Books Network podcast. But she argues that Tawheed, the Islamic idea of the oneness of God, isn't just about God. It's about everything. But for the first time in my life, I experienced that oneness. I saw how the smoke in the Maloka, in the giant open room, the giant room where the healing was happening, where the medicine was, and the music was, and the healers were, and where we were. And then the nature outside, the plants, the stars, the moon, the Milky Way, and the smoke inside the room, and the music, like many, many different kinds of nature, many different parts of nature just came together to heal me. Like, I matter so much, that there is so much out there that exists so I can heal. That is incredibly empowering. One of the things at the moon ceremony, the ceremony that I did when I couldn't participate in the Yahe ceremony on Thursday, one of the lessons in the moon ceremony was that you are capable of healing your own self. That healing doesn't have to come from external sources. That you have healing properties within you, other than the rapé that you inhale as for healing purposes. We didn't do anything else. Like, there was nothing else external that we used. And the rapé, we didn't have to use it if we didn't want to. And we didn't use it until like at a much later point in the ceremony. But we have healing powers within us. I don't know if you guys are familiar with something called tapping, which I keep hearing about in these wellness podcasts that I listen to. But I tried tapping for the first time in my life a few months ago, and that was incredibly effective as well. There are so many different options that we have to heal. If you're on this healing journey, if one isn't working for you, try a different method. Some of them are literally free, like this right here, or like, this right here. Like the tapping method is free. The breathing method is free. There are different ways that we can breathe, different strategies, breathing strategies that we can apply to heal. And they work. I long for a world, and I work for a world where everybody has access to every healing property, every healing resource, and every healing source out there. But also something like the sun, right? Something like literally just walking outside and looking in the earlier hours of the day, looking at the sun, or at least being in sunshine. And I know that even that is a privilege. There are people around the world who are stuck in enclosed apartments where they're not allowed to leave their apartment unless they're fully covered from head to toe or something. And I know that's a problem. That's something that I'm not okay with. Just know that there are so many different ways to heal. And I hope and I pray that you find them so you can heal, because you, on an individual, personal level, you deserve to heal. The world is not a healed place until you, every single individual, and me, every single being within this world, is healed. I wish everybody a healing, because it is so different to live in this world as a healed person compared to as somebody who was suffering. I'm going to end with this final note. Somebody I think it was the second week, somebody said that he now, post ayahuasca, post rhythmia, he looks at everybody and thinks of everybody as a wounded 5-year-old who is split from their soul, from their higher self, and they haven't yet merged with their self. Remember, as I discussed in my previous video, and I'm going to summarize very quickly here, there's this argument that there's a split that happened. We become separated from our higher self, from our soul, from our actual self, let's say with a capital S. That happens, that split happens because at some point in our life, usually between the ages of like 3 and 10, 11, we experience something very traumatic. We experience something bad, or something that our bodies receive and experience and internalize as traumatic, as painful. And we learn in that moment that we're not safe being who we are. So we become something else. We become something else to please somebody, our caretakers maybe, because maybe we only experience conditional love. I don't know, right? A lot of us do. I certainly do. And so we become a different person because we're not emotionally or psychologically or physically or sexually or spiritually and otherwise safe. The moment we become something else, we become separated from ourselves, from our higher self, because we're not ourselves. So when we look at other people as making decisions, not as themselves, but as the wounded 7-year-old or 5-year-old or 3-year-old or whatever year old they were when they first experienced a major trauma, then the world becomes a better place because our interaction changes. And we can contribute to their healing and our own healing. And that way we can have peace. And I really want to emphasize this. Individual people's peace matters very, very much. We cannot have a healed world unless we have healed individuals. And we could all stand to have more healed people around the world, because when they are healed, the rest of us will heal as well. So that's all that I wanted to share on some of the lessons that I learned on the ayahuasca. And I'll probably keep remembering things, and I need to look at my journal. It's been a couple of weeks since I last looked at my journal, where I wrote a lot of things while on the ayahuasca, and I'll probably have some more insights there, and I'll come back and make another video on those as well, inshallah. But for now, I hope this is enough. And if you in any way are inspired by this video, as I discussed in the last video on rhythmia and ayahuasca, let me know. Because if you want to try ayahuasca at rhythmia, if you want to go to rhythmia and you've never been there before, I'm happy to talk to you about it. They have discounts, and they also have discounts, especially for people who refer people. I didn't make this video to refer people, to be very sure. I made this video because I truly feel like a healed person, and some of the insights that I gained, I believe can help other people. But if you're going to go anyway, because this video inspired you, let me know so you can tell them that I sent you. Okay? All right. That's all. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks so much for listening. And I wish you a very, very beautiful healing in whatever forms you need to heal, and from whatever sources you believe in and that are available to you. Salam.